So here's what happens. If we can press those 5 motivational buttons, employees win because their work becomes much more intrinsically rewarding. They love coming to work. If they were independently wealthy, they would come just for the fun of it. Managers win because employees are more energetic, proactive, require less oversight and hand-holding. It's just a lot easier to work with them because they want to do a good job. They're thinking ahead. They don't have to be told how to do every little thing. They're acting more like owners than renters. Customers win because they get better goods and services delivered with a smile, because everybody's jazzed. Everyone's having a great time doing what human beings are supposed to do in a human way. We're aligning with human nature. You get the best outcome for everybody. Shareholders win because guess what? How much more money do you make if you have, say, 30% engaged employees versus 70% engaged employees? What do you think? Would you double profitability, double market share, and cut employee employee turnover in half, say? And that's exactly what we're finding, is that when you turn on these natural systems, you can double productivity, double profitability, become a best place to work in your location. And it's not a small effect, it's a big effect. Because we're so bad at it now, if we get it right, there's a big bump. And just to summarize, there's no conflict here between what employees want and businesses want. Employees want to get ideas and innovate and get those creative highs. Well, last time I checked, companies want employees to innovate as well. Is there a mismatch here? Employees want to feel like confident experts at in their field. Well, last time I checked, businesses want their employees to be experts, right? Any mismatch here? Employees want to achieve goals and get rewarded and recognized for those goals. Well, last time I checked, companies want you to achieve goals as well. So there's no mismatch. Employees want to have close, warm, interpersonal relationships with the people they work with. Well, last time I checked, companies want teamwork and collaboration, right? Any mismatch between what nature wants and what the business wants? No. And finally, employees want to feel safe and secure. Well, companies want that too, because if you stress out your employees, productivity plummets and healthcare rockets. So it's very bad for your business. I call this employee-first management. Take care of the needs of your employees by pressing their 5 buttons. Employees will take care of the customer because they want to. Expanding business, increasing profits. If you try to short-circuit this, just take care of the customers and forget about the employees, well, that doesn't work, because these guys are taking care of these guys. If they're pissed off, they're not going to do this. What about we just focus on the money? Well, now we're not taking care of anybody's needs. We're not providing any value, so we're not going to succeed at just paying attention to the bottom line. The bottom line comes by providing value, and providing value comes through pressing the 5 buttons. What about a reboot? This is not a tweak that I'm suggesting. It's a reboot, a cultural reboot, where we create a workplace game that people will love to play because they're getting pleasure from it, just like you like to play golf. I would like you guys to make a commitment today. Just like in The Matrix, the movie The Matrix, Neo, Morpheus comes up to Neo and says, "Okay, Neo, if you take the red pill, you go back into the Matrix. And you just forget we ever met. You go back to that life. Take the blue pill, you go down the 5-drive rabbit hole. And that will, I believe, take you to a much better place where employees enjoy their work more, companies are more productive, customers are happier, shareholders are happier. That's the better place I'm promising you. Which one do you want? The red pill stays the same, or the blue pill? And I'm serious. I'd like everybody to write down, are you going to take the red or the blue pill? Red stays the same, blue, we go down the 5-drive rabbit hole. Blue pill, I heard him. So let's talk to Steve and Holly now, because they've gone down the rabbit hole, and they're going to report on what happened down there.
I'm Steve Swanson. I'm the president of McFarland State Bank. This is Holly Hoyer, who's the vice president of HR for our bank. And I'm going to just briefly explain how we started studying. Paul mentioned a lot about his book, but it's called Primal Management. I'm just going to give a real-life example of what our company did. This is just going to take 5 minutes. We were struggling with a few challenges in our organization, efficiency, productivity, and we were looking at doing our own sort of reboot. And one of our directors challenged me in a board meeting saying, you know, maybe you should look at your culture first. And he made a suggestion. He had known Paul. And so I thought, okay, that's interesting. Maybe that wouldn't be a bad idea. Is our culture in the right spot to receive what we're going to do? So I love reading books on management and what the latest is in the industry and strategic planning and all that. So I went out and I got Paul's book and I read it, and as I was reading, I kept saying to myself, yeah, oh yeah, oh, and it just kept one thing after another, and I realized this is really, as much as Paul's getting into, and it sometimes sounds complex because it gets in how our minds work, it's really very simple. And that's what I loved about it. You just have to attack the 5 social appetites. So what we did is we started, I passed out the book, Holly and I started reading it, and we talked with our board, and they agreed that we'd go ahead and implement a culture change at our bank. And so the next step for us was we got our management team together, which was about 16 people, and we essentially started a book club. We attacked one chapter at a time, talked about it, how we're doing, and what we think could change if we started putting some of these practices into place. And then we went about it, and once we got done with that, we then decided to kick it off to our employees. And I'm going to let Holly explain the process we went through once we kicked it off to our employees. And I'll just finish by saying the first thing we had to do was sort of assess where we're at. So we did a survey, it's called the Horsepower Survey, that is very simple, takes less than 5 minutes for everyone to do, and you can get a baseline of where you're at so you can measure how you're doing with your culture improvement. So I'll let Holly explain from there what we did, and then I'll finish up by kind of giving where we're headed after Holly explains how we got to where we're at.
Thank you. One of the things that we need to be sure of when we first started out, it kind of matches the self-esteem button. We didn't want to tell our staff or even our owner that we thought we had a horrible workplace, because we didn't. So we didn't want to say, this is a horrible workplace and we want to improve it and this is what we're going to do. We said we wanted to enhance it. We know we're good, and we were looking at our numbers, but we knew we could be better. How can we get there? That was our question and our struggle. And as Steve mentioned, one of our board members thought this would be a good tool for us, because we really need to go through our improvement process through our employees instead of thinking around them, or we really want to focus on the employees first, which sounds like a really simple idea, but as Paul shared with you, not a lot of companies go that route. So we had to kind of retool our brain. Our bank is over 110 years old, so you can imagine there's a lot of status quo maybe, or we're into this process of really comfortable culture, and we weren't necessarily pro kind of so why fix it, but we really knew we could be better, so we had to go about it another way. We talked about the book club, and before we launched it to our employees, the supervisor group, or our leadership group, really had to know this book first. So I think we went through that process, and then we took the survey that Steve just mentioned, and that's Paul's Horsepower Survey. And we took the first one October 1st of last year, and we took it then for 6 months, every single month, beginning of the month. And we started off as a point, and we could probably spend 2 hours talking about that, but our employee as a group, our employee base was like at a 3.5, 3.4 reading, and now we're like at a 5.5. And what that means is that we've made improvements, and it takes into account all those 5 buttons. And again, that's just a really big overview, but we also had to commit with the supervisor group when we first started this is, you know, our employee group might be suspect that, oh, here we go, we're going to try this now. How long will this last? You know, will this be a 3-month effort, a 2-month effort, you know, when we get into maybe something new. So we've really had to commit to stay the course, to talk about this book. I, you know, have my books all marked up because I have to have it in front of me, not again because the concepts are hard, but it's so easy to go back into your old behaviors and your old pattern, and we really don't want to. So we try to talk about it, or we do talk about it at every single supervisor meeting. We encourage our supervisors to talk about this with their staffs once the surveys come out and we have the results to see how their group is doing and how the bank is doing. The other part that's really important to, we think, for the survey is the comment section. And we actually, Paul was nice enough to customize it a bit for us, and we actually added 2 questions, I think a couple months into the survey. And so that really told us more about where our employees' heads were at. So we really, and that was probably the biggest commitment, we really wanted to find out what was happening in our employees' heads and where they were at. And that's a process that we want to continue to keep doing. Because that process is so, or this process is so employee first, we also reignited an activities group that planned a greater amount of employee-based activities to try to get our groups to know one another a bit better, because we know that's a really important part. That's that cooperation piece that Paul spoke of, to get to know your tribe better. We strongly encourage, but didn't dictate, our supervisors to do more with their groups. You know, maybe have lunches, maybe go bowling together, maybe some have taken some cooking classes together. We haven't dictated that, we've just encouraged it so that they could find ways that work for them. Because Steve didn't want to sit up here and say, okay, that group has to do that, because he didn't know those groups best individually, their supervisors did. So we've done more outreach like that. We kicked off a wellness program, which again tried to get the health, physical health of our employees recognized and kind of put our money where our mouth is with that one. So we've done actual tangible activities, because at the end of the day, that's really what people are seeing, or they could, you know, taste and feel and want to know, instead of just talking about it all day long.
We've had Blue Jean Fridays.
Oh, yeah. You can imagine, as a community bank, we're pretty conservative in our dress. I mean, just look at the 2 of us. This is crazy for me, you know? But our dress has always been very conservative, and we asked a survey, just off the cuff, one of our meetings. We said, you know, if you were king for a day and you could change anything within reason, we're not looking for, you know, $1 million expenditure, but what one thing would you guys really want for us to change at our bank? And so we courageously asked that, knowing that we wanted to do something with it. And what do you think the #1 request was? Jeans. Can we wear jeans every Friday? And I got to hand it to our CEO, who is actually the owner of our bank, who has been in banking 40+ years. Very conservative guy, wonderfully so. He's led, and Steve have led our bank to great success. He didn't hesitate when we had this question, and the jeans thing was really, you know, in the past kind of hard for him. So he showed that. It seems like a silly little thing, but for him being able to say yes to that, the employees were like, oh my gosh, he must be serious about trying to listen to us. And again, those little things meant the world to a lot of people. For some of us, it's not as big of a deal to wear jeans on Fridays, but for other people, and a good majority, it's like, you know, manna from heaven. It's just this really important thing. But those are those little touch points, those little hot buttons. What we find is that we continually have to be aware of those 5 touch points, the 5 hot buttons, and make sure that we're not pushing that self-protection one, but really talking about achievement, innovation, the competency, and what's the other one I'm forgetting? cooperation, the tribe building. So we've been trying to do all of those things with tangible efforts, but then also challenging our supervisors to think about how they're communicating. What are they doing with their group? So it wasn't just, again, Steve dictating the whole thing. It was, you know, you guys need to own this. And you also need to look at your own behaviors, too. Are you creating an environment that is, you know, pushing that self-protection button? Be aware of that. We also told our supervisors with regards to flexibility of people's different jobs, if someone needs to alter their hours or needs to alter, you have the flexibility to do that. Now, if you're customer facing and we have to have the phones answered or the customers tended to, those are different and you can figure out different things, but we gave them great flexibility to figure out what their respective groups wanted and let them do that. And again, not that we were a heavy top-down, but that just wasn't something we talked about. So for Steve to be able to say to the groups, if you've got flexibility concerns or desires in your group, have at it. I want our customers tended to, most definitely, but if you could make all that happen, I'll give you the flexibility to do it. And I think that also was a big thing. Anything else you want me to touch on? Because I could talk a lot about this, but I also understand we have to keep to a time.
Yeah, I'll just finish up by saying that you know, we've been at it, as Holly said, since last October, and we're migrating through it. The biggest change happened in the first 4 months, which is exactly what's predicted in Paul's book. And I do liken it, though, a little bit to being on a diet. You hit a plateau, and we're now trying to figure out what we do to break through that plateau so we can keep making progress, because we want to continually get better. But our scores have improved to the point where we really feel like our culture is in a pretty good spot right now. But we have a goal of being nominated as one of the best places to work in Dane County, and to get there, it's going to be more of a process for us. So we feel we're on that path, and very happy that we stumbled across primal management and all the concepts, because it is very easy to execute. And that's all I really have to say, so thank you for allowing us to come.